Lane Kiffin is finally moving on from Tuscaloosa after 3 years as the offensive coordinator at Alabama. The big question now, who is going to replace him calling the plays for the Crimson Tide? We're joined by Matt Zenitz in Tuscaloosa. Matt, so far, I know it's very early in this story, but there are 3 names that I think we're hearing the most right now. Can you kind of walk me through the candidates that you're hearing mentioned the most for this job right now?
Yeah, I think the 3 that people are talking about the most right now, Billy Napier, Alabama's wide receivers coach, Steve Sarkisian, who's working as an offensive analyst this year at Alabama, and Mike Locksley, who's also an offensive analyst at Alabama. I think Billy Napier, just to start with him, somebody who I expect to be very much in the mix to get the job, a respected member of the staff who's done a good job as Alabama's wide receivers coach and has experience as an offensive coordinator. Worked as the offensive coordinator at Clemson back in 2009, 2010, I believe, and at the time, I want to say was the youngest offensive coordinator in the country. So somebody who's respected in the coaching world and, like I said, a respected member of Alabama staff. Steve Sarkisian is somebody who I think people outside the Alabama program have expected really ever since he was hired in September to be the next in line, to be the heir apparent for Lane as the offense coordinator at Alabama when Lane moved on after this year. And just based on the different things I've heard, without getting into specifics, I would be surprised at this point if he turns out to be the guy for Alabama. Mike Locksley, I think there's a better chance that he ends up at FAU with Lane Kiffin than as Alabama's offensive coordinator. That's just my opinion based on different things that I've heard. I think that he'll be considered. He's somebody who has very much contributed behind the scenes at Alabama this year and very much helped with the installation of some of the zone read concepts that Alabama has used throughout the season. But just based on the different things I've heard so far, it seems like there's a better chance that he ends up at FAU than as Alabama's offensive coordinator. Of course, things could always change, though.
So 3 internal names there at Alabama. That, of course, would be the first time Nick Saban had promoted an offensive coordinator from within his staff. Are there any external names that you think we should keep an eye on right now, Matt?
Yeah, it's still early, and I'm still very much in the process of gathering information right now. But obviously, when it comes to potential Alabama hires, it's always worth keeping in mind guys that have worked with Saban before. And, I mean, he needless to say, has a track record of hiring guys that he has relationships with and he's had a chance to evaluate and work with before. That was the case with Jeremy Pruitt last year, bringing him in as the defense coordinator. And it's just something that Saban has a track record of doing, of hiring guys that he has a feel for, that he has a relationship with, and that he's worked with before. So just something to keep in mind there. And other than that, there are some interesting names out there. I'm not sure if any of those guys will end up being heavily considered for the Alabama job, but one of the interesting names out there right now that's available is Mark Helfrich, the former Oregon coach who was recently fired, that worked as an offense coordinator at Oregon under Chip Kelly. His name has been linked some to the LSU job, even though it looks like LSU is going to go in another direction right now based on some of the reports that have been out there today. But he was in the mix there reportedly. So it's just somebody else to at least keep in mind, even though, like I said, I'm not sure if he'll be considered or in the mix for the Alabama job.
All right, Matt, and finally, you got a chance to ask Saban some questions today at a Peach Bowl press conference. Did he mention at all his timetable, any of the details about the search to replace Lane Kiffin at offensive coordinator?
He was asked if there's a timetable in place, if he has a timetable in mind, answered in one word: no.
Well, that says it right there. We'll have to keep our eye out on this story as it continues to develop, and we'll have all the latest for you at AL.com. Thanks, Matt.